It was an ordinary evening in the bustling heart of downtown, where the streets hummed with life as people hurried to their destinations. Among the crowd was Agent Maya Daniels, a highly skilled FBI operative, dressed inconspicuously in a dark leather jacket and jeans. Maya wasn't just any agent. Her sharp mind, years of experience, and uncanny instincts had earned her a reputation as one of the best in her field. But there was something more about Maya, something no one outside the Bureau knew, something she had worked tirelessly to keep hidden. As Maya walked to her car parked in a nearby lot, she felt the familiar weight of her badge tucked inside her pocket. Tonight, she had been working undercover on a case that was both delicate and personal, a human trafficking ring operating right under the city's nose. She had gathered enough intel to blow the operation wide open. All she needed now was to get back to headquarters, file her report, and set the wheels in motion for the takedown. But fate had other plans. Just as she reached the lot, a police cruiser with flashing lights screeched to a halt nearby, its harsh headlights slicing through the dim evening glow. Maya froze, her instincts immediately going on high alert. Two uniformed officers stepped out, their demeanor sharp and suspicious. One of them, a burly man with a buzz cut and a jaw set in stone, called out to her. "Hey, you! Stop right there." Maya turned calmly, holding her hands slightly up to show she meant no harm. "Evening, officers. Can I help you?" The man who had spoken, Officer Bradley, was already storming toward her. His face carried a mix of irritation and arrogance. "What are you doing here? This is a restricted lot," he barked. Maya glanced around, noting the absence of any visible signs indicating such a restriction. "I'm just heading to my car. I didn't see any signs saying it's restricted." Bradley narrowed his eyes, looking her up and down, as if her mere presence was an offense. "This area's off limits after hours. Let's see some ID." Maya sighed internally. She knew exactly where this was going. She had seen this type of behavior before, the way Officer Bradley's tone hardened, the way his partner shifted awkwardly but didn't intervene. This wasn't about the lot. This was about her. Reaching for her pocket slowly, she pulled out her FBI badge and held it out for them to see. "Agent Maya Daniels, FBI. I'm on official business." For a moment, there was silence. Bradley stared at the badge, his expression twisting into disbelief and then irritation. "FBI, huh?" he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "And what's the FBI doing sneaking around this part of town?" "I've already explained myself," Maya replied, keeping her tone measured. "Now, if you don't mind, I'll be on my way." But Bradley stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Not so fast. That badge doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want." Maya felt her patience wearing thin. "Officer, I've identified myself. I'm not breaking any laws. Now please step aside." But Bradley wasn't listening. His hand shot out and grabbed her arm, his grip tight and aggressive. "I don't like your attitude," he said, his voice low and menacing. "Let's see how tough you are at the station." Maya's body tensed as the situation escalated, her instincts screaming at her to defuse it before it got worse. But before she could respond, Bradley made a decision he would soon regret. With no warning, he swung his fist at her. The impact landed, but instead of staggering back or crying out, Maya stood perfectly still, her expression unchanged. For a moment, Bradley looked triumphant, until he realized something was very, very wrong. His knuckles felt as though they'd struck solid steel. Pain shot up his arm, and his hand trembled uncontrollably. His face paled as he stumbled back, clutching his wrist and staring at her in disbelief. "What the hell?" he stammered, his voice shaking now. Maya tilted her head slightly, her eyes locking onto his with a calm intensity that sent chills down his spine. "I warned you," she said quietly. Bradley's partner took a step back, his mouth opening to speak, but no words coming out. The atmosphere shifted, thick with tension and something almost otherworldly. Bradley's bravado had vanished, replaced by a growing panic he couldn't explain. His heart raced as he tried to process what had just happened. Was it adrenaline? A trick of the light? Or was there something about her, something he couldn't see but could feel in the pit of his stomach? Maya didn't move, but the air around her seemed to hum with an invisible energy. It wasn't a threat, not yet. But it was enough to keep both officers frozen in place, their authority crumbling under the weight of their own fear. "You don't want to do this," Maya said, her voice calm but firm. "Walk away." For a second, it seemed like Bradley might lash out again, but the pain in his hand and the unease in his gut held him back. He took another step away, his face pale and sweat beading on his forehead. Maya turned slowly, walking to her car as if nothing had happened. She could feel their eyes on her, their confusion and fear radiating like a spotlight. As she started the engine, she glanced in the rearview mirror and saw him still standing there, Bradley clutching his wrist, his face twisted in a mix of anger and terror. Maya sighed, her grip tightening on the wheel. This wasn't the first time she had to deal with someone like him, and it wouldn't be the last. But what Bradley didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that the secret she carried was far bigger than anything he could imagine. And if he pushed her any further, he might just find out exactly what that secret was. Maya drove out of the parking lot, her heart steady, but her mind churning. She kept her breathing calm, though the encounter still lingered at the edges of her thoughts. People like Bradley were predictable, quick to judge, quicker to act. It wasn't the first time someone like him had tried to throw their weight around, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. But this time, things had gone further than she anticipated. His reaction after the punch had confirmed her fears. She might have slipped up. Her hand instinctively brushed against the sleeve of her jacket, covering the part of her skin where the blow had landed. To anyone else, it would have seemed like a normal reaction to adjust clothing. But to her, it was a subtle check. The faint hum of energy beneath her skin was still present, a constant reminder of the thing she had tried so hard to suppress all these years. It had surfaced again, even though she'd willed it to stay dormant. The city lights blurred as she drove, her focus split between the road and the flood of memories creeping in. She hadn't always known about her power, at least, not in a way she understood. Growing up, strange things would happen around her. Glass would crack when she was upset, the air in a room would shift when she felt threatened, and once the kid who had bullied her ended up with a fractured wrist without Maya even touching him. Her family had brushed it off as coincidences or accidents, but deep down, Maya knew better. As she grew older, the incidents became harder to ignore. By the time she was recruited into the FBI, she had learned to control the impulses, to bury the strange energy that seemed to pulse through her veins. It was her secret, one she had sworn to keep locked away. After all, no one would take an agent seriously if they thought she was some kind of freak. The thought of Bradley's face, pale with fear, flickered in her mind. She had seen it before, the way people looked at her when they caught a glimpse of what she could do. It wasn't awe or admiration. It was the kind of fear that came from not understanding, from seeing something that defied logic. Maya pulled into her driveway and killed the engine. Her small house sat at the edge of the city, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. She liked the solitude it offered, a place to unwind after the chaos of her work. But tonight, the usual calm felt different. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. As she stepped inside, she double-checked the locks on her doors and windows. Old habits from years on the job, but tonight it felt necessary. She kicked off her boots, poured herself a glass of water, and sat on the couch, letting the silence of her home envelop her. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, breaking the quiet. Picking it up, she saw a message from her colleague, Agent Carter. Intel confirmed. Raid scheduled for tomorrow morning. Be ready. Maya stared at the screen, her mind shifting gears. The trafficking case had consumed her team for months. Dozens of innocent lives were at stake, and tomorrow was their chance to take down the operation for good. But now, with the incident in the parking lot, she couldn't shake the worry that something might go wrong. The thought of Bradley came back to her. Would he let it go, or would he dig deeper? The look in his eyes when he backed away hadn't just been fear. It was anger, the kind that didn't fade easily. Maya closed her eyes and leaned back, letting the tension settle. She had bigger things to focus on. Whatever Bradley did, she would deal with it later. For now, her priority was making sure the raid went smoothly. The next morning arrived faster than she expected. By the time the sun peeked over the horizon, Maya was already at the field office, reviewing last-minute details with her team. The air buzzed with anticipation and nerves as agents double-checked equipment and reviewed their assignments. Carter, her partner on the case, leaned against her desk, sipping a cup of coffee. "You good?" he asked, his sharp eyes studying her. Maya nodded. "Yeah, just ready to get this done." "You seem a little off. Long night?" She shrugged, keeping her voice casual. "Something like that." "Nothing I can't handle." Carter gave her a knowing look, but didn't press further. He trusted her, and she was grateful for it. The briefing wrapped up, and the team loaded into their vehicles. As they headed toward the warehouse district, where the operation was set to take place, Maya felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. This was what she had trained for, what she excelled at. But beneath the surface, a nagging unease remained. The convoy pulled into position a few blocks from the target location. Carter handed her an earpiece as they went over final instructions. "You're on point with me. Let's make this clean." Maya nodded, slipping the earpiece into place. As the team moved into formation, she took a deep breath, steadying herself. The raid began like clockwork. Agents swarmed the warehouse, breaching doors and securing the area with practiced precision. Maya and Carter led the charge, their weapons drawn as they navigated the labyrinth of crates and machinery inside. Shouts echoed through the space as suspects were apprehended, the operation unfolding just as planned. But as Maya turned a corner, her instincts flared. Something wasn't right. A man lunged at her from the shadows, his face twisted with desperation. Maya reacted on pure reflex, twisting out at his reach and disarming him with a swift motion. He hit the ground hard, groaning in pain. Carter appeared behind her, his gun trained on the man. "Nice work," he said, nodding to her. But Maya didn't respond. Her focus was elsewhere, her senses heightened in a way she couldn't explain. It was as if the air around her was alive, pulsing with an energy she couldn't ignore. She moved deeper into the warehouse, her steps cautious but purposeful. Something was drawing her forward, a pull she couldn't resist. Then she saw it. In the corner of the room, partially hidden by crates, was a steel door. It looked out of place, reinforced and heavily secured. Maya felt her pulse quicken. This wasn't on their intel. "Carter," she called out, her voice steady but urgent. He joined her, his brows furrowing as he took in the door. "What the hell is this?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But we need to find out." As the rest of the team finished sweeping the warehouse, Maya and Carter focused on the door. With a nod from Carter, she began working on the lock, her hands steady despite the tension coiling in her chest. The door clicked open, revealing a staircase that descended into darkness. A faint hum emanated from below, a sound that sent a chill down Maya's spine. Carter hesitated. This wasn't in the briefing. "I know," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But we can't ignore it." With a nod, they descended together, the darkness swallowing them as they moved deeper into the unknown.